Welcome back to Morning Movers. I'm Diane King Hall, coming to you live from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Joining us now for a discussion on the Fed, rates, and some stock picks. I'm joined by Brian Glenn, CIO of Premier Path. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about the tightrope act that is being balanced and Fed messaging. You had the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, just on Bloomberg. Probably didn't get a chance to catch it because you're here at the stock exchange walking around getting over here. But you described the economy as walking a tightrope between the Fed's policy tools, fiscal headwinds like tariffs. How do you see this balancing act playing out over the next roughly 6 months or just under 6 months through the balance of this year?
So remember the Fed's two mandates, which is full employment, which we have just over 4%, and then their other mandate is price control, or stable prices, which is they target 2%. We haven't been at 2 in over 4 years. When we were at 2, it was during a pandemic, which was a massively disruptive time, and that's when the Fed stepped in, printed a bunch of money. They were trying to prevent deflation, which is very disruptive to an economy. So the Fed's trying to walk that tightrope of keeping full employment, but at the same time having price control. We have inflation coming in now below 3%, but it's not at 2. We saw that number yesterday. And I think on the employment side, there's some hints that there is a weakening economy. Intuitively, we have to sit around and say, can people afford 8% auto loans, 8% mortgages? What happens as we disrupt imports with tariffs? And so all those factors, they're trying to juggle, like we said, a tightrope.
Yeah, 8% auto loans is insane to me. But I guess it's a reality that some consumers have to face unless there's some kind of deal happening. Let's talk a little then about the expectations you have now as it relates to a rate cut. Because obviously the odds are increased. I mean, it's over 90%, almost 100% odds that we'll get a cut in September. And now the question is not when, but how much.
Right.
And there's all this pressure for a 50 basis point cut. Do you think the economic landscape warrants that?
I don't think at this time, but I think one thing that people aren't considering is when we talk about tariffs and inflation, that's a step up in prices. Inflation is a gradual change in prices. It's a rate of change. And so we'll have this step up from tariffs to some extent. We still don't know where those land across a number of countries that we do trade with, but that's a one-time step up. I think the Fed is absolutely smart enough to look through that and look at the strength of our economy and the employment picture. So I think the market's pricing it in as well. I don't think this is a special statement, but I think we get that rate cut. I don't think the data's there for a 50 basis point cut. I think they've been taking it slow. And so if you've been taking it slow, the answer is probably to leak out a 25 cut when they meet in September.
Okay. Let's talk about some of your picks on your list. You've got Nike on your list. They do have some tariff exposure, though.
That's right.
And it's been an underperformer year to date. Why do you like it now?
Yeah, so there's Nike's been a turnaround story before the tariff news. So they call it their channel partners. And if you think about it, they sell directly through their website. They supply a number of stores with their brand. They're an apparel brand, they're a shoe brand. There's tremendous value to that brand. We've known it growing up. Our kids are enjoying that brand as well. And then you throw in these tariff headlines. They do about 30% of their importing from Vietnam. They actually do more from Vietnam than from China. And I think we have a reasonably good relationship during this Trump administration with Vietnam. That number was originally thrown out as 46% on the tariff side. It's come down to 20, and so we're landing on 20. I think Nike can absorb a 20% tariff on importing a third of its product. They have a nice dividend, which is 2%, and the stock, if you look over the last 2.5 years, has been cut in half from its all-time high.
So absorb or pass down to the consumer. What do you see?
Yeah, so I did read some information where right now the first effect of the tariffs, and I think this bodes the same for Nike, is that companies are eating it and consumers aren't eating it yet.
Not yet.
But at some point, companies will exercise their market influence to pass it on to customers. When we think about Nike, we think there's brand and pricing power there, so we do think they pass it on. An unknown is how much demand responds to that price increase.
Okay, let's talk about where else you're bullish. Defense and aerospace. you like that sector, but where are you bullish there?
So I do absolutely love this space. If you look at the commercial side, which is your single aisle jets, there's the Airbus A320, and there's the Boeing 737. And those are your primary duopoly jets that airlines buy. There's a 10-year backlog across both manufacturers in that space. These are $100 million jets. So you do 100 million times 14,000 is the unit backlog across both. That's a $1.4 trillion backlog of visible supply chain demand over the next 10 years. So that's exciting. I think in the military space, there's an absolute push to unmanned aerial drones and unmanned everything for two reasons. One, you don't put people's lives at risk. And the second reason is that they're actually cheaper. So Kratos is a company that I like, and they're producing a product called Valkyrie, which will sit alongside the F-35. An F-35 costs $100 million. Valkyrie costs about $6 million. They think that cost will come down. So if you're the Pentagon, which by the way just released a budget for 2026 that earmarked for the first time ever unmanned aerial drones with a spending budget of $9 billion, and that's a big number. They've never siloed off that number, and so that's money that will go into the space for innovation and for next products.
Okay, I'm looking at that chart on Kratos right now. It's been a stair step there.
It has been a stair step.
And Boeing's been an outperformer year to date, so you see continued outperformance. I want to get a quick final thought on you. You say a great company can be a bad investment if you pay the wrong price. Where do you see the most mispricing in today's market, whether it's sector or company?
Okay, so I will step back. Our clients are small business owners. Some have medium-sized businesses, and they're very accustomed to equity risk. They have their entire net worth in these businesses. And so we've always said, just like them operating a business, in the short term, price is everything. But over the long term, what they've used to compound their wealth are these businesses, and it's the underlying business fundamentals that matter. So tomorrow, we could pay a PE ratio of X or Y, and that may matter. But if you look over a 10 or 15 year period, good companies which earn high rates of return on capital, they do well and the stock price follows. So we kind of drive our entire investment process by that philosophy.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on set here at the Stock Exchange. It's a big day here. There's going to be an IPO today. So, all right, that's Brian Glenn, CIO of Premier Path. Our thanks to Brian.